Let's keep this episode more about, I suppose, the business side of things. Again, for listeners that will eventually hear this podcast, hopefully at one point in their life, we haven't spoke about what you do, Matt, what I do, and it would be good to just kind of roll through that a bit, and then we'll talk about how your end of year went and what plan is for the next 12 months. Okay, podcast episode 1, 2022. It's Matt and Roddy.
2022. Fucking hell, first expletive on the on the 2022 podcast. We need a little E next to it.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of those.
Honestly, like it feels like it's June already.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is crazy. Like, obviously, we're in I'd say a great position. It's not really a great position, but in terms of like, we had a break. We put out a few initial episodes to test the water. We had a break over Christmas, so we haven't even seen each other for 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So, other than like WhatsApp messages and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
and we've actually had quite a lot of stuff happen in those like 6 weeks as well.
So let's keep this episode more about, I suppose, the business side of things. Again, for listeners that will eventually hear this podcast, hopefully at one point in their life, we haven't spoke about what you do, Matt, what I do, and it would be good to just kind of roll through that a bit, and then we'll talk about how your end of year went and what plan is for the next 12 months.
Yeah, like definitely. I mean, like, probably good to do like maybe a 20, 30, 40 minute section on like background as well, because I think it's important for how people know how we've kind of got to where we are and where we come from. Because, you know, I think there's a lot of people that listen to these kind of things that are kind of either in the same boat as we are, you know, leveling up to that next kind of level, which is going from like, you know, serious to super serious, or you've got people who are you know, sort of in that. Certainly, people like trying to either start their own business, or they've started their own business, or they're just, you know, they're trying to move forward with the projects, maybe get out of the day job into the thing that they really want to do moving forward. And it's quite easy to get stuck in that bracket of, you know, the 50 to 100,000 turnover and not really know how to get over and get through that kind of that barrier, which is, you know, it's a bit of a shitty fucking area. So I think like the more people realize that it's that you and I were normal people, and we're actually in the mix of building our businesses. We're not like sat on fucking Instagram on a beach going, yeah, we fucking done it. And we haven't got all this kind of shit in, you know, without a pot to piss in, and like making it look like we've done what we're doing. We're actually doing the living below our means, investing in the difference, not to the point of like Gary Vee would say, eating the shit and all that kind of stuff. But we're kind of like mid fucking journey, you know?
We're certainly on our way. We're on the bandwagon as such. We are.
And neither of us are from a business background. Like like my background is I was an Army physical training instructor. So I joined the forces when I was 19, went through all that kind of stuff, went to Iraq 2003, all that kind of crap. And, you know, essentially left the forces in 2006, went on to be a personal trainer. Didn't really like that. Went on to group fitness. Got headhunted by Adidas to be a global fitness ambassador for those guys, traveled the world for 2 years doing that, and then ended up in network marketing. So the actual span of my career has been so completely different to, I suppose it's been so eclectic. And now obviously just bought the Miss Great Britain, like rights pageant, whatever you want to call it, which is probably a subject for another time, or we may even cover some of it on here because that's like a brand new, fresh thing. You know, so, you know, for me, if it's not residual income based, or if it's not royalty based income, then that's not business that I'm generally interested in. I'm heavily interested in and investing in other businesses. Network marketing is my thing, will always be my thing. Herbalife Nutrition, which is my business. Been doing that for 10 years. That is my main business. That's the thing. That's my day to day. Crypto investing, anything where investing is concerned, where residual income is as a result, is that is my niche, my passion, my kind of wealth building strategy. So That's where I'm at.
Good one, man. My turn then, I suppose. Yeah, background wise, certainly haven't got the military mindset that you had. I grew up in what we term here in the UK as public houses, pubs, sports clubs, a rugby club and squash club, four different actual backstreet dealers, pubs and bars, a couple of council houses chucked in there. So I've moved around a lot. Growing up, I had no intention to do anything else other than to become a professional football player. That was it. My whole sights was on. I was a talented football player. I'm one of those guys that said I had trials here, there, and everywhere. Quickly didn't work out. Again, that is another podcast in itself. Essentially, I was left working for my dad in the pub, earning pretty much fuck all, and thinking where the hell am I going to go? And I'll be honest, I was lazy. I had no drive, no ambition. Well, when I realised the football thing was over, I didn't study well in school. I'm not academic at all. I have one GCSE in PE to my name, which was a C at best.
It's not even a good one.
Studying just wasn't my thing growing up. Or I just wanted to get out on the field and play football, and that was it. And I'm not going to talk about coming up with. I used to live by excuses. Because we moved, because I'm too small, because the manager doesn't pick me. All of this bullshit. So I found myself working for my dad in a pub. For pennies, thinking, what am I doing? Where can I go? I have no qualifications, no academia, and nothing. Like, what do I do? So the quickest barrier to entry for me and the opportunity to make more money was sales. You know, in sales roles, you can blag your way in, and if you teach yourself and you learn the skills of that trade, you can earn a lot of money through commissions, and obviously you're always at risk of getting fired, but then you can walk into another one and another one.
Sales is like the ultimate starting point for business, though, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Definitely.
Yeah, even if it's like you're figuring it out yourself, which I personally think is the best kind of. The first lot of sales kind of stuff is figuring it out yourself, and then understanding that actually there's an eloquence to this. There's a system. There's a
The first time I got involved was a company called Stay Bright Windows, right?
I work for Stay Bright as well on the phones.
On the phones, cold calling, annoying elderly and people eating their dinner between 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, trying to book an appointment with one of our sales reps, and it was a phone bashing job.
Was your office like the word, like one
disgusting,
stunk of cigarettes?
Yeah,
like horrible grey, like beige, dirty wall.
Back room, stunk, no windows, a whiteboard on there with just your name and a tally chart. And I literally looked around.
Did you actually ever sell any?
One.
Yeah, I did one as well. That was it.
I did one appointment, and the only reason I did that was because she felt sorry for me. I was like, look, I'm going to lose my job if you don't book this appointment. You don't have to go for it. Please, 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 please. I hate my life. Whatever. So it didn't. Obviously, it was the worst lead ever, but it was just to get this prick off my back. That's obviously the manager that sold 500 windows last weekend, whatever. So it was a horrible experience, and I come out of there and I thought, you know what am I going to do? Right, I hate it. So then I was like, I've got to start somewhere. So I started reading books and self-help books, as your typical sales guys do. And the job I went for, it was temping, basically. I'd basically go in and get a temp job where it was like, just get some money in. It was customer service. Now, it was customer service, but it involved upselling. So you weren't going to get sacked if you didn't hit your target. Your main job was just servicing incoming calls. So I was like, well, I'm speaking to people now all the time. I'm in a comfortable position. I hate it. It's essentially it's an admin job.
Big difference,
of updating
though, isn't it?
the system. Yeah,
big difference from them calling you to you calling them. That's a big difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was like, right, how do I start learning this sales game through upselling. So I'm already in a conversation with someone. And one thing I found that helped me by living in pubs and social places, and the fact that I'd moved around quite a lot, was I was very sociable. And I could talk to people quite easily, and I was quite adaptable given the fact that, you know, I've gone from living in a backstreet dealer's pub to a professional championship golf club. The clientele are completely different.
But the thing is there, like, I mean, we use a term, referrals, reorders and upgrades. Now, in a pub, there is I mean, like, that is the ultimate place to get referrals of people coming in. Yeah. Pretty simple. Reorders, well, everyone's going to have another pint. And upgrades is, do you want a double?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And as they get drunk throughout the evening, it's easier and easier. And it was for me, it was then when I talk about like started learning stuff, I'm on about like books about NLP, how people express themselves, how they talk on the phone, looking at different personality traits. And so I started to kind of basically use all these calls coming in to start to understand, well, how can I, you know, if I'm speaking to an old lady and she's really quiet, that I've got to adapt my voice to, you know, really being able to experiment on this stuff that I'm learning, and stuff like, right, if there's someone really loud and he's like, then I would stand up and talk to him and raise my voice and so on. And how these then filtered into manipulations. It can be construed as an awful word, but at the same time, sales and marketing is at its core manipulation to an extent.
It's probably better. It's probably persuasion is probably
yes. That's probably that was probably the best word. Yeah, the better word to use was persuasion. And like, yeah, again, learning from these kind of self-help books. I remember one, you know, you always pick up key phrases and key stuff that always stick with you, right? And one of them was that people don't like to buy. People hate being sold to, but they love to buy. So I was like, how do I get people to buy off me? Don't try and sell to them, but get them to buy off me. And so it's a different format. It's a different approach to it. So anyway, long story short, I improved my sales game on the customer service upsell front. I stepped up to another company where I was upselling more, smashed my targets, got into it, learned to enjoy it. Basically, you were in a call center. It's the worst job. You could have a 2 till 10 shift. You're working on a Sunday. There was so much wrong with it, but it's like, if I don't learn to love it and make something of it, I can't step up. So I did that. Didn't step up in terms of management, because at the time, again, I was young, cheeky, definitely not management material, but very good on the phones. But what they did want me for is, a lot of the other teams within that call center was like, wow, how's Rod hitting all these targets? So they started pulling me off the phone. Now, this kind of job that you're in, you would come in as a temp, because call center work is high turnover. People will come and go. They hate it. It's not a career path unless you're a manager who hates themselves. That it becomes a numbers game, certainly for big brands. But what happened was, they wanted me to come off, because the only training you'd get when you start is about a week of product knowledge, and then you're on the phones. But no one actually got sales training. And I went to them and said, look, no one's getting the training. So I started again teaching myself, learning how to be a coach. And there's a difference, because when you're not teaching people how you do it, you're teaching them how for them to do it in the best way they can, as opposed to go, oh yeah, just copy me. But everyone's different. So I learned sales coaching. Then I became a sales coach, which meant work, even albeit still shift work, was easier because I wasn't constantly on the phones. It gave me more of an impetus to enjoy my work there. Then I started getting an interest in SEO, Google AdWords, online, in internet marketing, and there were all these courses out there, and I used to buy these courses, download them, and then get my 30-day money back guarantee. But I would literally take all these courses and just spend the evenings learning internet marketing. Got into affiliate marketing to start with, set up multiple sites. This was when it was so easy to manipulate Google. You could buy a domain with the keyword rich domain, they'd call it, and you'd have domains targeting certain affiliate products, and you'd give reviews, and those reviews would be like, yeah, this is a great product, you should buy it. then people will click through, buy it, and you'd get anywhere from 3% through to 50, 60, 75% in some cases. So I started making some money off these sites and on a regular basis. And I had about 25, 30 sites at this point. And then a massive Google algorithm came in where they basically cottoned on to a lot of these scrupulous marketers. And obviously Google's whole plan from when they were initially a search engine to turn it into an ad platform to then going, how do we give users the best quality content? We're just going to get rid of all this shit on manipulation of people that are putting out fake reviews just to get people to buy and stuff. So I quickly learned a lot about Google. As this is going, you've got MySpace and then Facebook and then Twitter and Instagram and so on. So, and you could see it all going in the same direction. Google starts off as a search engine, builds, and then monetizes it through becoming an ad platform. What did Facebook do? Start off, build a shed load of users as a social profile to share things and share your life, quickly becomes an ad platform. Same with Instagram, TikTok. Anyway, that's the monetization. So obviously the next natural thing after SEO and learning how to build WordPress websites and stuff like that was to then look at, right, how do you create an ad campaign and basically get into the whole paid side of things. So now I've got a sales job and I've got a digital marketing passion. How do I amalgamate the two? So essentially, and I've skipped out quite a bit in terms of my sales jobs went from customer service, upselling, coaching to then, right, what's my next challenge? I'm stepping back, but I just totally forgot about it, which is important. I had to get that cold calling right, like that challenge. Like from that Stay Bright Windows days, I was like, I need to find a product, a company that I could go and I can, now that I was so confident with speaking to people and turning people's, persuading people, as you say, the next move was, right, I need to conquer this cold calling thing. So I went from inbound to outbound and I went at it because I taught myself so much. I went at it from a completely different mindset, completely different view, obviously more experience. Long story short, nailed that, worked really well. And again, that was at the point then when I was like, how do I get a job in sales? Now that I've done cold calling and I've done inbound and I've done upselling and I've done sitting on a desk on a phone, I want to now do consultative sales, the bigger ticket items, the relationship building, the side that I really, really wanted to, because that was what I found I was all about, was building relationships, networking, being able to do it face to face. I've done it on the phone, so I've studied people and profiles on the phone. Now, how can I do it in a face to face environment? And so again, just homing in and growing a career into what started off as sales, then turns into business development. So I became a business development manager for a digital marketing agency, which was the perfect balance. It was talking about stuff that I'm passionate about and that I'm knowledgeable about into also bringing in my sales experience. So that literally is kind of how I've gone from sitting in my dad's pub thinking, what the fuck, through to a career in digital marketing. The other side of it was it was a great time because, and even today, there's, online marketing, albeit it's hugely popular now and every business has to do it. And certainly with this pandemic and COVID and everything else, it's a must have now. People are forced to actually be really serious about it. But even nowadays, it's still nowhere near the spend that people will or companies will put towards television advertising. Or billboards or stuff like that. So there's still so much more opportunity, and it's still essentially in its infancy. The whole information era is still quite new, isn't it? It's not, if you think how long television's been around, the internet is still young and it's only going to evolve, and more money is going to be spent in it and more knowledge and more tech and everything else. And it was nice to be kind of, and again, this is going back to the fortunate of us being born in the 80s is we were born without the internet. We grew up without the internet, and we saw that whole transition. And if you catch something on that wave, you're now more knowledgeable than anyone else certainly the majority of people in terms of that industry. And I think
it's like that kind of like even just like the tech / marketing, whatever is on. I mean, it's still on almost like a vertical hockey stick.
Yeah.
Uptick trajectory. You know, there's like
there's the potential, the next level stuff, the VR stuff that's coming out. You know, the CGI, the stuff that I see some of these guys, the video, like the quality of video production and things like that is just phenomenal. It's just unbelievable. And I think for those that may have heard that on the podcast, I'm pouring a glass of water into a drink. I'm not on the toilet.
You didn't just take a big piss.
Yeah, exactly.
No. You have to go to the YouTube version to see whether it's just like
that is definitely yeah. So
into the pan.
So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and then obviously having worked 15 plus years for several different marketing agencies on different levels, some of them in big technical web builds, through to managing clients like Universal Music, Fever Tree, Pizza Express, Benefit Cosmetics, all these different cool ass big brands, right the way through to everything small as well, and getting that experience from different agencies, every single one of them, like watching them grow and seeing the talent and what works and what doesn't, and the whole even the whole business side of things, like being close to these founders and these directors, all of which were phenomenal mentors and people to look up to. Off the back of that, to now I've started my own agency, kind of pushed into it through COVID. I was furloughed, which meant I had to freelance to supplement the loss in basic wage and the loss in commission. And also just having that emphasis to say, Joe, I've got to drive out on my own. I've got to go.
It was the final push. It was the final.
Yeah, I think it was weird because I was in a position where I had the freedom of feeling like an entrepreneur, like in terms of people were hiring me. Like after the first agency that I was with, even the first agency I was with, I was in a role where I had the freedom to go to London, build my network, staying in Cardiff in Wales, but working in both London and Cardiff, and having the freedom to basically, as long as I'm bringing on the brands and doing it, I felt, and I could make all the decisions in terms of business development, bringing on another business developer to support me underneath and etc. I felt like I'd already had that. And then I started doing some consultancy work for some of the clients that I got on with, but more from a sales point of view, so stuff that didn't involve what the agency were doing. So then I felt like, right, okay, I'm going on this entrepreneurial kind of journey. And then it took me to a point where I did consultancy work for agencies, where I was working on my own as a sole trader consultant. Actually, I was a limited company consultant, and I was contracted to come in and help them structure the agency better, grow the agency from getting in front of bigger brands, working on bringing on the right staff, all these different areas, which I loved. But then I was headhunted by another agency that wanted me to work with them, albeit I agreed on 3 days a week rather than full time, so I could still keep some freelance clients. So I was always in that blend of having the protection of working for someone, yet I'm on that cusp of, man, I'm working for myself. Yeah. And it was only then I realized, being furloughed and stuff, that, man, this is like now or never. Coming up, 38 years of age, coming up to 39, thinking I'm 40 next year. I've got to absolutely push out and go on my own. So I took the dive, started off freelancing. That's quickly turned into then employing staff members, bringing on skilled specialists to support, because I just couldn't there's only so much you can do as a freelance and utilize your own time. So the agency was born 25th of January last year. It's our first year in business. We turned over 6 figures in our first year, at a very healthy profit margin. And now it's time to kick on with that. And in between all of that, I've got my hand in a few other pies and a few investments going on. So yeah, essentially that's my background, and that's where I am today. So
it's very similar. We're both a fan of having I think where people make a mistake is they're trying to do everything at once. You know, I'm 10 years in building my network marketing company.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a 6-figure annual, you know, we've not pushed the 7 yet, but you know, I think within the next 18 months we're certainly going to be there.
That's phenomenal, man.
Well, in terms of suggested sales, though, like if we look at it just from like a sales like perspective, you know, we'll do anywhere from 100 and so that was revenues. That's what I'm talking about. But sales and revenue, they're not intrinsically linked. So
yeah,
and certainly how network marketing and all that kind of stuff works. So we'll do anywhere from 150 to 200,000 pounds worth of products sold a month. So you know we're I mean, there's obviously people that do loads more than that, and there's loads of people that do loads less than that. What I have been able to do is through, you know, a network marketing gets a bad name. You always hear is it one of those things? Is it a pyramid? All this kind of stuff. And, you know, pyramids have been elite. Pyramid schemes and all that kind of rubbish have been illegal for 30 plus years in the UK. And, you know, with our company being listed on the New York Stock Exchange, that's not, you know, you can't be anything that's dodge where that's concerned. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think there's the difference between a Ponzi and a pyramid scheme, or people.
Yeah. Well, because they were all born around the same time in the late sort of 50s, 60s kind of area, this is where all the scams and schemes kind of stuff came out. But this is also where the birth of sort of network marketing came out at the same time. So whether it be, you know, your Avons, your
Avon,
Forever Living, and all that kind of stuff. I used to deliver Avon books to my mum and all that kind of stuff. You know, that was a kind of the deal. But you know, the reason why I chose network marketing, I think, over anything else, is because at the time I wanted to start my own business, I had no fucking money. Yeah. So, you know, banks weren't lending to certainly like mid-20s, you know, lads who wanted to go and open a gym. It just wasn't a thing. We just come out of a recession, or barely we just come out of a recession, sort of 2011, 2010, you know, 2007, 2008 was like, the world fucking went, you know, lost its arse and all the rest of it. Me going to the bank, knocking on the door saying, oh, by the way, I'm an ex-squaddy, I've been a PT, so I've got some experience, lend me 100 grand to at least get my foot in the door with a franchise. Not going to fucking happen. No. You know. So when I actually looked at the network marketing industry, I just went, well, do you know what? This comes down to the perspiration I'm willing to put on my own forehead. You know, and I took my business for me. When I say business, is like the thing is, I have no overheads, you know, other than like, you know, a few quid here and there for a website, all that kind of stuff. I have no overhead. So anything that comes in comes to me, comes to the business, if you know what I mean. So the turnover and a profit, they're almost the same thing, you know, or gross turnover. It's almost the same thing because it's only going in one direction. And that's, to me, all the expenses on the travel and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So by the end of year one, I was already making like 5 figures a month. Within my first year, because I treated it as a business, knew that it just was down to me to go and put the work in. And as we've just been talking about sales, it's, you know, it's sales, but it's sales without even being salesy, because, you know, with what we do, we just share results of others, and that then.
Well, you've got the right product. Your product works. Like, there's no doubt about it. The product and the system for using that product works.
Yeah, well, everybody has this, and the thing is that everybody has a level playing field. Everybody starts that you can't buy your way up to earning more money in network marketing. You just can't. You know, I mean, brand new companies that have got the newfangled ways of doing stuff. Maybe we've been around 41 years, which for me, as someone from the health and wellness industry and all that kind of stuff, was super keen that at the time they'd had 30 years worth of human testing, and that was super important to me. You know, is where you looked at other things that stacked up. That there is no such thing as a perfect product, because what's perfect for one person isn't perfect for another. You know, you combine a great compensation plan with a great product and someone who's willing to work, and have the ability of leverage and compound, which is what network marketing has, compound being probably the most effective force on the planet for business. And then with time leverage, being able to leverage the time of others to get more done in less time, you're on the road to a winner. So that's why when I said I'm a student of residual income and that they're the only business that I'm interested in, is why network marketing is high up on my list, and why that's been the centerpiece for me to be able to then go and invest in other stuff.
It's the model that you chose to focus on more.
Yeah, but you know, if you look at, and you know how I structure my stuff anyway, is that I take a residual income model and then put it into another residual income model. So I'll take from my Herbalife business a residual and royalty based business model and put it into property, which is a tangible and rental income, reoccurring income thing. I'll then take it from there and put it into low cost index funds and that kind of stuff. You know, so it becomes this ecosystem of business then that then produces a swell, I suppose, of wealth or whatever that you're then able to go and add into and then go buy some different stuff
like with everything, it just gives you the options, doesn't it? It's the old saying of like how the rich get rich. They don't get rich by taking their money and spending it. You know, the story of the lottery winner that gets all the money and then 2 years later it's gone because they've spent it all. They haven't put it into investments or
it's because it's all up here. And you know, and I made the mistake. So you know, I made a lot of money for me very quickly, you know, going from 0 to 10 grand plus a month within the space of 11 months. So or from broke to that, you know, we're not wired to handle, you know, at the time I was a 30-year-old guy, single. You give someone that amount of money that is not financially capable of handling that. I mean, I could make sure that I wasn't spending like stupidly before because I didn't have the money to spend. But then you give someone the money to spend that like
that's it.
You kind of go nuts. I'm just gonna change this blind so it makes me look like I'm a spirit being or something.
But it is you're right. And I think us growing up, again going back to like us being 80s kids, like the information that's around today that wasn't around, you know, and even still the education system hasn't got anything to do with financial management in it, which is ridiculous.
Oh mate, I absolutely
on a lower level of you know, my child's in high school, they don't have financial management classes there.
Well, they don't even have like for me, like I sucked at maths, still do, you know. My best mate is like me all the time.
I'm awful.
You know, it's not even so much that I suck at maths. I suck at like working things out quickly in my head. They're two different things. From a you know, so it takes me a little while to just go, okay, let me just process this and what have you. Whereas he's like ninja and it just comes, it's just there, you know. But my forte is more so English language, that kind of stuff. So he does the maths thing, I do the English thing, you know. So I'll pick him up on there, and there, and two and two, you know, all the rest of it. So but he'll then nail me on like figuring out something in my head. So but if in school they taught me in maths VAT percentages that were relevant in, you know, in terms of like mortgage and credit and finance,
the stuff that matters in
life maths. Then I would probably be in a lot better shape rather than confusing the shit out of me. Putting numbers together with little squiggles and then putting numbers together with squiggles and letters. I mean, come on, you're a lunatic.
I didn't even get that far in my maths class. I was like, you got different sets in maths. I was probably below the one that is the lowest.
Well, I
never used to go to maths. I was so scared of it. I used to run away.
We had bottom set.
School.
I don't know if you were the same. We had bottom set maths, but then we had what was called basic studies. So like nobody wanted to be in what was called basics. They probably can't even call it that anymore. You know,
they're not like,
there's probably no way that that's still a thing. But yeah, we had, but basics kind of cut. So you'd go to either basic maths or you go to basics English. Now, to be honest, I'd have probably excelled in basics, but you know, you don't want to be in basics because you know, you're with Steve, who's got grommets and massive thick rimmed glasses and generally doesn't smell too good. That's generally what basics was.
No offense to anyone called Steve out there, by the way.
Yeah, and if you smell, go wash. But you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those. one of those things that you can't. I'm a big believer in that you work on your strengths and you outsource your weaknesses,
Yeah.
to a certain
Well,
degree.
that's certainly something that I've learned this year alone. Like it's weird because you never, when starting like this last year, I've learned so much more about me as a person, as well as about the things I thought I knew. And you only know it when you've got the weight on your shoulder, rather than I could be in a room and see something, but unless you're feeling the pressure of what that thing is. So like, going back to me having the opportunity to work with the founders of these agencies for small, medium-sized companies that you have more involvement in, rather than being a number of a big firm, for example, right? And you see stuff, and you think you know about it, but you don't know about it until you experience it. It's a weird one. And one of the biggest things for me was delegation this year, because going from freelance, where you're in control of everything, or you're doing everything, to actually how can I bring on, and it's not even just the stuff that I'm weak at. I'm trying to bring even the stuff that I'm really good at. I'm trying to find someone better than me to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And basically, and that's how you go from being self-employed to a business owner. Is like this year alone, like in the last 20 days, it's January the 20th as we're recording this. One of the things that I wanted to focus on, and this comes from a book I read, was to have a set amount of time spending on the business as much as I can. So working out two books I read over Christmas, phenomenal books, right? One of them is this, the 80-20 principle.
Yeah. Plato's role.
Yeah, I only read 20% of it. It's all I need. Literally.
Well, I mean, really, you can kind of like the moment you've done the title, you're pretty much.
Well, the whole thing there is everything's an imbalance, right? And it's with everything. It's like if I'm spending 20% of the time that is having 80% of a positive effect, that kind of thing. And obviously 80-20 is just. If you look at
your client base as well, you'll find that 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of the clients.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's that kind of way of thinking that has, and again, when you start up anyone that starts up a business knows, especially when you're at a point, more so when you're at a point when it's the only income coming in from a perspective of keeping the lights on, and giving your kids what they want at Christmas, and being able to save for holidays, and being able to put money into investments and stuff. It's a little bit different, obviously, if you've still got your full-time job, and then you're working part-time to eventually become full-time self-employed. Don't get me wrong, that is solid as well, because you're just putting non-stop hours in. But when you do flip over, the pressure, and I hate the word stress, but because I think stress is a mindset, but the way that you look after your body, the way, like, this is the biggest thing. Like, I was smoking more cigarettes, I was drinking more alcohol on the weekends, I wasn't handling the pressure well, because I was trying to do it all myself, and I wasn't delegating anything out, or I was doing it the wrong way, and it was such a struggle. And this book helped me go, do you know what, actually, this is focus on what you need to focus on to make all these things better, so that was, and the other book I read, Deep Work, there was a bit about having what they call monk time, which is literally a set amount of time in the day. For me now, it's like 8 till 11 o'clock, 8 in the morning to 11. All I do is read, write, and listen. It's a learning thing, and I've utilized that time to go, every day I'm going to spend that time on the business, not in it. I'm not going to answer emails. I'm not going to do notifications. Obviously, it's hard as humans not to pick up a phone just in case your wife's calling because something's happened with your kid in school, or whatever. But it's like during that 8 till 11 every day. And now that's the key thing for me, is like focus on what I can do to make the business better, and to make it more profitable, and to give my clients what they want, etc., etc. So it's massive learning curve. Going into what I was saying at the beginning of this podcast about talking about what we've done this year, that for me, so like looking back on last year and going, do you know what? I was in a really good position. I was in a high paid job. I had freedom in that job. I was in an industry that I was passionate about. There was nothing wrong. I could have easily stayed as that person, but it wasn't deep down money off the table what you want. And when you take money off the table, you realize actually what you want. That's why there's people out there earning more than enough money and then changing careers very late in the day, 40s, 50s, because it doesn't become, when money's off the table, it doesn't become about money. It becomes about your everyday life, your lifestyle, how you want to live, right? And that for me, to look back and go, right, okay, actually, here's what I accomplished last year. Do you know what I mean? Or over the last couple of years, I've got a bigger house. My kids are in the best school in the city. I'm now working on my own hours. I'm now making more money than I've ever made. I'm now being able to put that money into other vehicles. So that for me, you got to look back, and I think that's one thing that I'm certainly proud of. But now it's like, right, how do I get better and better and better?
And as well on like in a disruptive year as well, because it was kind of like last year was no man's land. It was like, are we in? Are we out? Or can we do this? Can we do that? We can't travel. Oh, we can travel. And I think that had a kind of a knock-on effect. I'm proud how I've sort of styled it out, like mentally, because I'm not really a stress responsive kind of guy. So like I'm kind of like, well, there's no point worrying about it, because worrying about it is just like waste. For me, it's kind of like wasted effort,
wasted energy. Yeah,
but it's taken it's taken some time to get there, because it's not all over 10 years within my business. It's not been rosy, all the time. But I do think, like, for me, a bad day in network marketing, Herbalife, or whatever you want to call it, is like it far outweighs a bad way outside doing something else, if you know what I mean. Or a bad, we kind of talk about it in seasons, like Jim Rohn lessons of the season. So this too shall pass kind of thing. Because we had such a huge 2020, 2021 was kind of like a settling of the dust kind of thing. And we held our own really strong, which I'm really proud about. But I also got to the point in 2021 where I was like, I'm not really doing the business in the way that I'm excited to do the business at the moment, because like before COVID and all that kind of stuff, we had all our nutrition clubs opened up. We had like fixed locations, so people were coming in like daily, that kind of thing. We were seeing clients, customers, and distributors, really regularly because of the model that we were running. And then suddenly we were just thrown into this online world, which then very quickly lost its novelty. My ass has now gone flat from being sat at fucking a Zoom like for God knows how many hours throughout 2021. And I think, I don't know whether you mentioned at the start of the podcast that I've just come back from Texas and all that kind of stuff, because I know that, or within me, and looking back over 2021, travel is a big part of my value system. I want to be able to have that freedom of travel, to go travel, whether that be holiday, work, other, or what have you. So actually going and spending some time in Texas over the last couple of weeks, it's on that kind of voyage of discovery of redoing the business in a way that I love doing, rather than just doing it because that's what other people are doing, if you know what I mean. So, and for me, so
you found it like refreshing, like a breath of fresh air to go there and figure stuff out mentally on how you want to approach this year going in, right?
Yeah, because it's a different mindset over there as well, and because I've gone to Texas, they generally just don't give a fuck. It's awesome.
I'd love to go to Texas, man. It looked amazing on your Instagram. It looked
the people
amazing.
Like the people are just ledge. They're just they couldn't do more for you. They literally would bend over backwards, and they're genuinely interested. I got there in the end. Genuinely interested to speak to you, and find out about what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And they've just got this kind of element, I guess, of freedom around what they're doing, because Texas is a freedom state. So it was just kind of a refreshing The only time I put on a mask was actually in the airport and in the Uber, which was by law for them.
Yeah.
But other than that, like literally, you just didn't think this thing existed or whatever.
Yeah.
They were just doing that thing. So,
well, I'm on my second round of green lights.
Oh right, okay.
Matthew McConaughey, yeah, the one in the
back. On audio or on book?
I've got it on audio, and my mate's not going to watch this until his birthday. But I've bought it. I bought the hardback copy, like you've got there, for his birthday, because I know he'd love it. And I'm going to get the hard copy myself, because even though I'm on my second round of listening to it, I do want to just read it while I'm listening to it. It's just so good, the fact that Matthew McConaughey is actually narrating it and the storytelling. But one thing, it was actually in the car this morning talking about when he went back to Texas and how you can be yourself.
Yeah. Oh, where he gets arrested playing the bongo.
Yeah. That is amazing. But yeah, how Texas is always welcoming. He feels like, because everyone's accepted for who they are.
Yeah.
There. And
depending on where you are, within Texas, and they'll tell you that too. They'll tell you that for sure.
But I guess that again, there's a difference between your upbringing and my upbringing from a travel point of view. Like, I never got to go anywhere, and we've had a conversation like this before, where like my parents could barely afford Isle of Wight,
my travel was mainly because like my dad spoke fluent French. So my dad growing up he went to, I think when he was 16, went to go pick olives or whatever, or grapes or something like that in the vineyards and whatever. He spent a month out there because he was studying French at grammar school. And then like came back and was fluent. So like we kind of used to do the so because like my mum and dad, so I grew up very, very similar in kind of like I suppose poverty level is not the right word, but like the same kind of working class that are trying to get to the middle class, and you kind of sort of just maybe get your toe in and reach there by the time you go to secondary school, that kind of thing. So, like my dad grew up in a family of like the family business, which was plumbing, so it was like full on graft kind of that kind of world. And my mum was just like a nursery nurse, looked after special care baby unit, that kind of thing, and then went to the playgroup thing, but was mainly kind of like the mum, like to us. But still worked always part-time. For as long as I can remember, my mum's always worked either full or part-time, as well as my dad. So that was really how we could afford to go on holiday. When I say go on holiday, we'd literally pack up the car and go to France on like the ferry or whatever, and then drive down to, have you heard of, can you remember Key Camp holidays? Can you remember Key Camp thing? Like the big blue tents that were in the middle of like a, it's like basically staying en masse.
Right. Okay.
So you'd like pull up to almost like a big forest, right? And the big forest would have like, say, a swimming pool in it, and then maybe like a kind of clubhouse sort of thing. But then where you stay, you literally pull your. I mean, I used to love it. It used to be.
It's like a camp in Butlins type thing.
Yeah, sort of. But like you
wouldn't stay in chalets. You'd stay in tents. But big ones.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I say big tents, I mean they felt big because I was small, but they were probably like kind of, well, you'd still like, if you wanted to go for a piss, you weren't pissing in the thing. It was either like in the woods behind the tent, or you'd have to walk to the shower block in the middle of the night. Go in the shower. So like everything, all that kind of stuff was like, the press on the wall showers and that kind of thing. It's a key camp. It sounds more like prison camp, doesn't it? But as a kid, it was cool. And then
kids don't care. Like,
no, man.
I did, just to stop you really quickly on that note. Like my kids' favorite holidays are camping, because that we're going with all their mates, rather than if we took them to a swanky hotel. They just get bored. They would like it, the novelty would wear off after the first. And
they can't mess about and that kind of stuff. But and then we'd kind of like, so because like my dad was obviously, he then moved into like being a lecturer at college, so you get that 6 weeks holiday sort of thing. So we then just kind of like drive up to Belgium because he spoke French. He met a Belgian Italian on holiday who became my sister's godfather and what have you. So we'd then go and stay with friends So it was always kind of like the France trip, like the long drive down. I mean, I remember being in it must have been either a Volkswagen Santana or a Vauxhall Cavalier. It was in the times where you could bring back loads of beer from France or whatever. I remember literally being like my knees pretty much up around my ears because my feet were on like the little stumpy bottles of beer that were like stacked in the footwell.
You could bring whatever you want over from Calais, isn't it?
Like all the wine and all that kind of all the stuff that we were.
That was probably my trip to France. Was I said I barely go to Isle of Wight. We did go to Paris once. It was awful because I think my dad took 5 hours from Calais he just got lost and it was awful. But again, the whole reason I think they would go there and back would just be to get booze and stuff for the club and so on.
I mean, look at this, right? This is I don't know whether you get the scale of this, but like
so basically for those on the podcast,
that is a 32 ounce like Yukon Outfitters metal.
Wow,
right?
With an American flag on it.
Yeah, it's like proper. This is like raw.
What is it called? Yukon Outfitters.
Yeah, it honestly, like this is
so everything is supersized in America, right?
Oh yeah, pretty much. Like they have their like mega stuff and everything. It's like because everything's done in ounces. So I think 32 ounce could be around about 900 mil, give or take.
See, I haven't been States. I haven't been stateside.
So really all the traveling started as I got older. You know, obviously with the military and all that kind of stuff, I got to go do some stuff as a result of that.
Yeah.
But really that like the major traveling started with Adidas to start with, because they just took me all over, like mainly I think places like China, Taiwan, all those sorts of places. And then with Herbalife, you know, God, I mean, I couldn't even.
You're pretty much you're away like 2-3 times a year with them, right?
More than that usually. Jeez. Yeah. So like I think
I'm going to join Herbalife, man. Just get some holidays, man.
Well, hey, you still have to work hard to get on the holidays, but
I know, of course.
And then what we generally do is we'll tag on while we're out there, because the company will generally subsidise the flights, if not pay for them, depending on how well you qualify. We generally we'll stick on another week or whatever, and then either go somewhere else. So you're you're leveraging the time being away. So like when I went to Hawaii, I stopped in New York on the way because we had to anyway. So it was you
get a chance to do stuff like that. Like obviously, for me, I've moved everywhere in London and Wales and the UK, certain places, but never like gone to multiple places abroad. And some of the guys that I speak to that are like, you know, they do business development out there. I've got a friend that travels, 2 friends that travel all the time for work, but they don't get to see it. They're like, we literally, when we're there for work, we go from the airport to a hotel, we have a meeting, we then wake up, we got an Uber or a driver takes us to our whatever Korean office or Tokyo office or what have you. Then we just have meeting rooms, come back, get on the flight and go out. There's very rarely a time
we don't roll like that at all. And you know, this is the thing in that, like, you know, and the business is paying for all this as well. You know, it's like because you know, if I've got a business, if we go to like the Honors in LA, then that's obviously me and or Saf, but it's the business that's paying for it, but it's still benefiting me, if you know what I mean. So we'll tag on a road trip to Vegas and do all that kind of stuff. As a result, you know, go visit some clubs out there and all that kind of jazz.
And then you got some of your team members go out with you if they've all got to obviously individually earn the right to get out there. Is that right? Or team? Yeah. So I suppose going back into the network marketing side of things, then, because I've got a couple of things I want to ask. Right, I agree with you in terms of like network marketing. You know, a lot of what is said is just people finding excuses because they can't put the time and effort into it. Like any business, if you don't put time, effort, and get your head down and make something of it and focus on it, you're never going to make it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But a lot of people say about network marketing, it's about time. If you're not in at the very beginning, then you like what do you say to that?
Well, that's actually my favorite one, actually, because it's completely irrelevant, and it's kind of like it's never the statement the statement is never kind of true. It's what they believe about what they think they could achieve, or it's actually just their fear that's being expelled in kind of like an excuse or a question. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like to give you an idea, like the world number one in terms of like royalties, which is like the biggest kind of income, like monthly income or whatever, is a couple that have been in almost around the same time as I have. So bearing in mind the company's now 31 years old or whatever.
And you've been in it 10 years. So they weren't in it, we're talking about, they didn't have a 20-year head start on anyone.
No. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, you have obviously like the fact that people who worked hard back when we first started in like 1980 or whatever, and have stayed around and have built and so on and so forth. Like, those guys are still around.
Yeah,
and they're certainly like making an absolute wedge, and so you have like an overall world number one in terms of like a group size and all that kind of stuff, who are like the ones that maybe been in 30 odd years or whatever, but this couple are still within that top 10, even though they came in whatever, but they are certainly like
at the same time, at the same time, then you'll obviously have other guys that have been in it from day one that aren't making as much as they
100%.
And that's the same for anything. Like, if you look at if I've been in a game longer than you have, I've had more time to gain experience and grow from it.
But to put it in context, the couple that I'm talking about, like they've been in under, and this is certainly not typical, but it's obviously possible because they've done it. Like their income is, I would hazard a guess, and this is probably lowballing it, maybe $400,000 to $500,000 a month in 10 years, like in under 10 years probably.
But they've obviously had to put an immense amount of graft and effort and time and dedication and focus into it, right?
Loads. And there's also people who've been in for maybe 30 years, but their growth, they may have decided that something's flicked, or they really want to take it seriously. It might have taken 15 to 20 years for them to take it seriously, and then in the 10 years they've gone ridiculously.
Goes back to that, get more what you focus on, right? Because if you're putting more time into it and you're learning from it,
but I mean the model is built to be of course it's built to be a full-time model if you wanted it to be, but 99% of people do this around their current commitments to make an extra £500 to £1,000 extra a month. They have no desire.
Which is great. It's great. Like it's gives you an opportunity to have another option or bring in more income. On that, then with those kinds of because obviously you've got your full time and then you've got your, let's call it, side hustle. What kind of commitment in terms of hours do they need to put in? No, obviously it could be, it depends what you do with those hours, but
and that's generally where we start, because it's the funny thing is they'll say something along the lines of, I want to make X or whatever. So my general first question is, well, let's rewind and say, what are you actually prepared to put in? Because if that's not linked to what you want and based on like what you're willing to put in, because there's always a price versus a promise. There always is, and it's just whether they're willing to pay the price for the promise that they want, if you know what I mean, or that it's available. Because we're, like I said towards the start, we're all on an even playing field. There is no one that is not, and
we all have 24 hours in a day, right? That's
of course. Phrase, but I think what for me, what was really attractive about network marketing was, and I don't want to make the podcast obviously about network marketing, whatever. But what was really attractive to me is that they don't care who you are, what color your skin is, what race you are, how you identify, what your background is. None of that is important. You could have come out of prison yesterday and start in network marketing.
You've still got the opportunity to do it.
Because the way that it's set up for you to win if you want to play the game. That's how it's set up. So they don't care what you've done, they care what you are going to do in the future, which for me is like super important, because it means that it's an option for anybody. You know, you don't get turned away because you're a woman. You don't get turned away because you're a black man. You don't get turned away because you've been in prison and whatever. You don't get turned away because you identify as non-binary, whatever whatever it is you want. So none of that is important at any point. There is no
you're never judged on that. You've got the opportunity, regardless of who you are, to go out.
You're
and
rewarded for your output. You're rewarded on your output within network marketing. Certainly within my business, is you're rewarded for helping people, either helping them with a health result of sort, because we're in obviously the health arena, or with a wealth result because you've helped them build their business. That's it. There's no other score that you can take.
And then no, that's good to know. And obviously, I think an episode specifically on deep diving more into network marketing as a whole, I think would help.
And you can grill me, go pull off some stuff, and
I think the whole idea here is to give people opportunities to potentially go out and grab something. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like my model's very different in terms of there's two sides of it. You can start off as a freelancer, which is skill set based. So if you can build websites, or you can build ad accounts, or you can do graphic design, or you're a developer, you know, all these different areas, and you can not specify. So what you could be specific in one area. Like you can just focus. Like now, if you're coming up and you focus fully on managing TikTok ads, like that is just pure your focus. You don't do anything else but just manage TikTok ads. That's massive, because that ad platform is growing. Some people just focus on Instagram only. Some will just focus on WordPress, building WordPress websites, others on Shopify sites. Or you can diversify. But the first area for my kind of game that I'm in is, if you've got that skill set to do something, to become a freelancer. And again, you can do it part-time. A lot of the guys, some of the guys that I give work to have a day job either in an agency or doing something, and they want extra income. Therefore, they'll take a job off me. I'll give them a brief and they'll fulfill it. And then the flip side of that, from an agency running an agency point of view, the only person that can kill the agency is me, or the owner is you if you own it, because essentially you go out, you find the client work, and then you bring on the staff. Now that could either be internal staff, or you can use a trusted freelancer, as I mentioned before, a trusted freelancer to finish the work. So as you're growing, you can understand, right, okay, I've got client A who's not going to give me a budget, but I need to give him a cost, or he will give you a budget. Either way, you would then look at, okay, how do I fulfill that job with a user, with a specialist? What are they going to charge me? And normally, if you're bringing business to freelancers, you should agree a reduced rate, because you have the opportunity as an agency to do the one thing that freelancers hate, and that's sales, is bring in the work. So my business model is based on having internal project managers. Eventually I'm literally on the search for 2 or 3 different internal employee staff members, but I've got 6 freelancers that we typically call freelancers on a retained basis, because they do pretty much full-time work for me. Plus then I've got project-led designers, developers that if I need to, I can bring them in. Now I'm obviously fortunate that I've worked with them for a while, so I know them and know what they can deliver. But essentially, when you've got that agreement in place with these freelancers, it works from a point of view of like Matt, if you went directly to that freelancer, he would cost you more than if you go through me, because I've got such a reduced rate, because I just feed him. I literally give him a full-time income off it, and then he can go and choose and do what he wants directly at a higher rate. Fine. But with that, it means you've then got the model of saying, well, you know exactly what the cost is on this side, and then you can then figure out what your charge is for the client on that side, and that's your profit as long as you've got a project manager to manage it and everyone to deliver it. It's a scalable business. So
it sounds like a pyramid to me.
Well,
sounds like one of them things
I'm talking about. Is any business not a pyramid in some form or another? You've all,
No, it's not. Everything is. It doesn't matter whether you're at school, whether you're in the military, whether you're in the police force, whether you're in the fire brigade, whether you are an Apple. Who makes the money at Apple?
Who makes the
most money at Apple?
Well, the guys at the top.
The guys that own it, the guys that run it. Yeah. Who makes the most at Microsoft?
Yeah, and it just happens to form a shape of a pyramid because the people at the top, there's less people at the top than there is middle management than there is on the front line. So it's all.
But the difference is that the differences in the business models is that a super high probability that you couldn't have a shop floor worker in Apple become the CEO and buy out the company. That's generally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Or be the highest earner within the company. The shop floor assistant that works in Apple in I don't know, Westfield. There is no real. There's no. I mean, I don't think it exists. People, please correct me if I'm wrong. But the career path to be able to go from shop floor to the CEO of
on
Apple,
the board, yeah,
likely doesn't exist, and that's the difference. Whereas I can. And that's kind of like the difference, and that's why I brought the story about the couple that were that are obviously been in for 7-8 years or 10 years or whatever they are, and are now world number one.
Yeah.
Then that's the equivalent of everyone starting in the same place, as if everybody in Apple walked in and had to be shop floor Apple Store workers to now being top of the barrel.
It's mad.
Different environment. I think we're at a natural.
I think that was a natural finish. A little bit of an insight into both myself and Matt's backgrounds, businesses that we've got going on. I think we haven't really kind of pushed on to what we want to do going forward and what we've got in the pipeline, which I think we'll save for next week. But that was interesting, Matt. Even though I've heard a lot of it before from obviously knowing you, it's nice to just
it's good to dive into some of the nuances as well, and the similarities and the not so similarities and all that kind of stuff. And if people are even asked to listen to us, I don't know, then
well, they will eventually, because we're going to be pumping out some
good stuff,
some ads right now. Obviously, this going out as we record it, there is no subscribers. So if you do catch this. Again, we're going to be putting out advertising to promote this, because I think
even if it's a simple, we'll take that right now.
I'll get my mum to listen to it. She'll listen to my voice all day.
I'll take a pity share.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't, but certainly my mum will. But no, I'll get my kids to get all their mates to just subscribe.
I have got a parting shot for you though, actually, as well, or a parting book. If you haven't done it. Get a hold of Jimmy Carr's latest book, because it's wicked. Like it's like a.
So last night I watched Jimmy Carr on Netflix. His real
the dark material.
The dark material, yeah.
Do you like it?
I can take a joke. I'm never offended by what anyone says, because I think if anyone is offended by someone else, then
that's their problem.
They need to figure that out. Yeah, that is coming from them, not from the person that said whatever they said. I thought it was hilarious, man. He's just so quick.
Honestly, get his book, because it's so funny. Like, because it's not what you expect it to be. It's a personal development book.
Yeah.
But it's kind of also in the style of him, but also you just get it and you'll thank him.
We'll do that, man. And to wrap up, obviously next week we are going to be discussing what the plans are for next year. Mine includes
this year.
This year. So 2022 plans. We hope you liked this week's podcast. If you're into online marketing or network marketing in any way, or looking to start a business, or looking to just push on and grow your career in any way, shape or form, then get in touch with us. Follow us on our Instagram. You can catch us on YouTube, subscribe, sign up to these podcasts, man, because there's going to be more coming this year.
Cool.
All right. Nice one, bro.
Catch you soon.
See you on the other side.